What's up, moviegoers? Welcome to the Markio Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony. In this episode of the Markio Podcast, I'm talking about Halloween Resurrection. It is the 8th installment in the Halloween series. It's directed by Rick Rosenthal and stars Busta Rhymes, Bianca Kalage, Thomas Ian Nichols, Sean Patrick Thomas, Tyra Banks, and Jamie Lee Curtis. The movie was released on July 12, 2002, has a running time of 90 minutes. The movie had a budget of $15 million, and it grossed $37.6 million at the box office. Now, this 8th installment follows Michael Myers continuing his murderous rampage in his hometown of Haddonfield when his old childhood home is used for a live internet horror show. Let me just say that this is going to be a very quick episode of the Markio Podcast because I do not like this movie at all. It was an unnecessary sequel to Halloween H2O. Basically, we find out that the movie starts the same way Part 7 ended. We find out that in the beginning of Halloween Resurrection, it flashbacks to the events of Halloween H2O 20 years later. We find that the person that Laurie Strode killed and chopped off the head of was actually a paramedic. Michael Myers switched bodies with the paramedic after crushing the larynx of this paramedic. The paramedic was the one in the body bag and couldn't speak, so of course Laurie Strode thought it was Michael Myers. So Laurie Strode actually cut off the head of the paramedic and not her brother. And since then she's been in an institution after these events. Laurie Strode's character is killed by Michael Myers, and she's basically only in it for about 15 minutes. And the only reason Jamie Lee Curtis did come back for this role was to be killed off and close out her story. Now, the acting in this movie is so bad and so terrible and really, really horrible. Busta Rhymes, Tyra Banks, like, what are you doing? Why do it? Basically, they go to the home of Michael Myers and do a live internet show or a horror show. Like, basically, the plot is that, we enter the home of Michael Myers. Let's see what we can find. Unbeknownst to them, that Michael Myers is still living there and still killing these people off one by one. The kills are interesting and different, but the whole aspect of, making this movie was weird and different. Now, the writers of Halloween H2O were left with a dilemma when Jamie Lee Curtis wanted to end the series. But of course, producer Mustafa Akkad had a clause that legally wouldn't allow the writers to kill Michael Myers off. Now, according to the Blu-ray release by Scream Factory, Curtis almost left the project just weeks before filming until Kevin Williamson came up with the paramedic storyline and presented it to Mustafa Akkad. Jamie Lee Curtis finally agreed to be a part of the film under the condition that no footage hinting toward a sequel would be presented by this film and that the audience would believe that Michael was dead until the inevitable sequel was announced. Resurrection's first shot of Michael in the paramedic uniform was filmed the day after Halloween 2's principal photography ended, according to the Halloween H2O editor at the time. Now, this 8th installment in the franchise had a few working titles. It was originally known as Halloween Homecoming, Halloween H2K, and HalloweenMichaelMyers.com, before producers finally chose the final title that they wanted once that let audiences know Michael Myers was alive. I get it, it works, maybe, but it didn't work. This movie was all over the place, and we find out that, I'll save you some time. We find out that Tyra Banks' character is killed in this movie, but it actually doesn't show how she's killed. But there's another director's cut or producer's cut that shows that how she's killed. There are a lot of edits in this movie that were taken out, and certain things were done where it didn't work at all. And this movie as a whole didn't work at all. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, it was an unnecessary sequel that didn't make sense and that didn't need to be made. This series should have ended after Part 7 because it had a fitting ending. And just because Mustafa Akkad, the producer, had a weird, stupid clause in his contract saying that he couldn't kill Michael Myers, the character of all these series, was stupid. It was just weird and dumb, and this movie made no sense. It's a slasher film, supposedly, but it's not a slasher film. It's much more of a comedy movie, and nothing's interesting. There's a scene where Busta Rhymes fights Michael Myers. That's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen, Busta Rhymes fighting Michael Myers. I mean, how much did you pay Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks? Seriously. That's what I really want to know, because they made this movie worse, and this movie couldn't have gotten any worse than it was already. So let me know in the comment section below what you think about Halloween Resurrection. Do you think it's the worst entry in the franchise? And do you think that it was a necessary sequel or an unnecessary sequel after the events of Halloween H2O? Let me know in the comment section below about the questions I just asked. And be sure you tune into the next episode of the Markio Podcast where I talk about Halloween, the 2007 remake directed by Rob Zombie. And be sure you click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell for new videos and new podcast episodes on the Markio Productions YouTube page. And follow Markio Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And follow me, Anthony, your host, on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Filmstock. And follow the Markio Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'll leave a link to all the social media accounts in the description box below. You can check it out and follow along. All right, everyone, that does it for today's episode. I'm your host, Anthony. Thanks for tuning in.